Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Life Paranormal Research Podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds. My guest tonight had to reschedule due to a public appearance event that he has to be at. So, SRS Paranormal will be on next weekend with me. So, tonight we got a good show. I'm going to do a solo without a guest tonight. We got some interesting topics to talk about tonight. Um, so, let's say hi to everybody in the chat. Hey, Carol, welcome in. And hey, Greg, welcome in as well. Resnick, welcome in. We're gonna start off first by talking about. Hi, Joanne, welcome in. The Catskill Witch is known for being the Catskill Mountain Monster. I grew up in the Catskill Mountains of New York State. When people hear New York State, they think New York City. That's not the case. There is country in New York. Um, and this legend of the Catskill Witch dates all the way back to the Native Americans and the Dutch back in the 1800s and close even the 1700s. I am going to post a picture so you can kind of see what she looks like. This is an actual postcard of the witch that they made back in, I think, like the 50s or 60s. Um, Let me get to my notes here about her. I'm going to read a little bit that was written about her. Um, it is easy to feel the touch of the mountains that overlook Salem's moon. It was the Dutch who named them the Katzenbergs due to the wild cats and panthers that lived there. Originally, the Native Americans living there called them the Antarora, Mountains of the Sky. Now we call them the Catskills, and they are rich in myth and legend. Some Native American tales explain the mountains were the remains of a giant monster. This monster is delighted in feeding on members of tribes. One day it was making its way to the ocean to bathe. The Great Spirit turned the monster to stone. The lakes near the summit of the mountains became its eyes. The peaks of the mountains became the home of the Catskill Witch. Legends say that the Catskill Witch controls night and day. She is responsible for letting the sun out each day and sending the moon out each night. She would back one and then the other, lest they become angered and jealousy or catalysmic conflict arises. Each month, when the moon became old, she would cut the moon in the stars and hang them in the sky. She would spend her days sitting on the Round Top Mountain or North Mountain Peak, spinning out the clouds and sending them into the winds. So next time you see the clouds scudding across the sky, think of her. Um, it is also said that the Catskill Witch controls the weather. She deemed reverence when she felt sighted. In that regard, she would unleash mighty storms, that she would unleash the lightning on the longhouses and homes of those who mocked her. She would cause the rains to fall in such abundance that the streams would overflow, drowning those living near the streams. Sometimes she would disguise herself as a deer and lead the Native American hunters astray, exposing them to great danger. Sometimes she would appear as a large shadow menacing them. They would run and oftentimes find themselves at the edge of a large ravine. Then she would laugh at their fear and just stop short of falling as they stopped short of falling. She'd often like to spend time near Garden Rock, as it is called in those days. It is known as Smallwood now, which Smallwood in New York State is a little town in the Catskill Mountains. There is a lake there. Anyone coming near the lake risks her wrath. One day, a hunter got lost and found himself beside the lake, not realizing at first that this was the lake of the Catskill Witch. He stopped to pick a gourd from the tree. Suddenly, he saw her. He dropped the gourd and it broke. From that broken gourd came a stream. As it swelled in size, it surrounded the hunter and carried him away. Today, the stream is known as the Catskill Creek. And that is the legend of the Catskill Witch that is said, and she is still to this day said anybody that goes near that lake will feel her wrath till this day, that she was cast in the stone into those mountains. That's one of the legends of the Catskill Mountains that I've heard even as a kid. I would hear stories about it growing up there. The Catskill Mountains is also known for their cryptids, their Bigfoots as well, because it's heavily wooded and dense in those areas. Like I said, when people hear New York State, they think of New York City, which is in Albany, New York, the state capital, which is not the case. There is heavily wooded, populated areas in New York State. The town I grew up in was a small little town from the 1800s, and it is out in the country in the middle of nowhere. So the next one we're gonna move on to is the Tennessee Wild Man. He is known to the locals as a form of cryptid. Uh, he is said to be Bigfoot, but he is more human. The Tennessee Wild Man, the origins of the Tennessee Wild Man go back to the 1800s in McNairy County, Tennessee. One of the stories is that the circus freak showman somehow captured the beast and put him on display in a cage where everyone could see him for exploitation until it finally broke free. The description of the Tennessee Wild Man is much similar in appearance to a Sasquatch, but only more human. He is supposedly either dark gray hair or dark ginger hair. He's about 7 feet tall and is always accompanied with piercing red eyes. It is known to spout a disturbing war cry, then can frighten anyone that hears it, and has a horrible smell that's a remnants to the skunk ape. Very aggressive in behavior and can possibly be the acrimony of a Sasquatch, ironically often fighting for territory reasons. Not surprisingly, the wild man possesses great strength, agility, and speed. There have been many groups of men that went out hunting for the creature, but all the times, usually they don't find anything or something traumatizing happens. The monster is known to have strange targeting obsession with dogs and women. Many women came out to say the wild man had attempted to snatch them up and carry them away. It is suspected, however, that these attempts were always unsuccessful. The latest known wild man sighting took place over 20 years ago near the Elizabethton, Tennessee. Rob Phillips, along with his cousin, were on a night hike to Bee Cliffs. Through the rain, they noticed something strange in the forest. Everything had become completely silent. Sound of a snapping twig broke the silence, followed by the horrible, inhuman scream unlike the hikers had ever heard. The men fled separately through the darkened wood, with Philip soon finding safety behind a tree. It wasn't long after he spotted the wild man clinging to a nearby tree about 15 feet away. Rob heard his cousin break for the hill and he followed suit. Philip's account corresponds slightly with the initial tales of the Tennessee wild man. He was described as a stout, about 9 feet tall, with red, beady eyes, a set of claws, and a horrible, persuasive stink that Philip compared to the stench of a dead animal. It is unlikely that the Tennessee wild man lived almost 150 years in Tennessee mountains, and it is assumed then that more than one of these creatures exist, or could the creature sighting in Bee Cliffs area be something else entirely? It wasn't only Tennessee that this creature was sighted, since some reports also came from Kentucky. So they say he's kind of like as you see in the picture, he's kind of like a Sasquatch, but with a more human figure. I mean, people could be mistaking a Sasquatch as the Tennessee wild man. It's hard to say. I mean, nobody's ever captured him on film or anything like that to where they can prove sort of like how the mysteries of Bigfoot is. I mean, we have a Bigfoot here in Missouri called the Momo monster that has the brown reddish fur. It's but only it don't stand as tall as a traditional Bigfoot, and it's got the beady red eyes. It's got 3 fingers and 3 toes on each hands and feet. So, if anybody has any questions about these cryptids, feel free to post them up in the chat. Um, and if there's any cryptid people in the chat room from Tennessee, that feel free to chime in if you guys experienced it or experienced anything like it, or if it was a Bigfoot, or if you guys have any evidence of it. We would love to see that. But yeah, moving on with the Tennessee wild man, they're also said to live near like the national parks and stuff like that. I don't know what their obsession is with women and dogs. I don't know if like dogs they eat them or what have you, or and I don't know the obsession with women. There's not much I could find as far as history on the Tennessee wild man except for what I just read you. Um, Same with the Catskill witch. That's a legend and folklore with her as well. Um, there is no like documented film evidence of her, so it's kind of like an urban legend type thing. I've talked to some people from Tennessee about it, and there's a few that's never even heard of the Tennessee wild man. A lot of them contribute it to a Bigfoot being out there because of the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains, and which is all that's connected. With moving on, we're gonna move on to another mythical legend in Tennessee, the Smoky Mountains, all the way to the Appalachian Mountains, the Pharaoh people. They are said to live in the national parks in the old mine caves. Many people believe that they are miners that escaped the civil wars of being arrested. So they lived their own life in the wild in the caves. They are still spotted today in the national parks. They Also the evidence of the Pharaoh people in Appalachia. Some people claim to have seen Pharaoh people along the Appalachian Trail. Paranormal investigator in Tennessee had shared stories of searching for a Pharaoh people in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Some people have shared stories of the encountering Pharaoh people in the Appalachians including their long, dirty beards, curly fingernails, and eyes that seemed empty and wild. And the term feral people of Appalachia is used to describe people who lived in isolation from society in the Appalachian Mountains. Some say that miners who evaded arrest during wars retreated into the mountains and became feral. The explanation, some say that miners who were involved in fires or retreated to avoid arrest went feral and lived in the mountains. Other claims to have seen feral people along the Appalachian Trail, which runs through the Appalachian Mountains and national parks like the Great Smoky Mountains. Some say that the rough appearance of people in Appalachia comes from the economic depression in the late 1800s, which with the mines shutting down and then there was no food and jobs. So a lot of these people became wild and went and lived off the grid in the woods. But some interpret them as paranormal as well because when you see them, most people only see them at night when they're out and about. And there was a movie on the feral people called Woodsman that's actually on Tubi, and it goes back to some truth. Hey Kim, welcome in. We're talking about the feral people. If you just joined us, of the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains, about people that live wild. Some believe they're miners. Um, Earlier we were talking about Tennessee Wildman and the Catskill Witch from the Catskill Mountains, but there was a park ranger that uh, survived an attack from the feral people out in the national park in the Smoky Mountains. They're said to be cannibalistic, that they eat people. There's countless people that go missing each year in the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains on those trails. A lot of times they interpret it to a bear or an animal attack. I mean, they do have cougars in the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains. But I know that whole mountain range is known for its strange, unusual behavior out there. As far as paranormal, there was a movie called The Hunted that's based on the Appalachia about a guy that experienced he was out deer hunting, and Josh Stewart, the actor that's in that movie, it's based on what happened to his experience when he was out deer hunting in the Appalachian Mountain about the screaming woman in West Virginia. But these feral people, they're like I said, they're known to live in the cave systems of the old mines, and they are very aggressive. They've got dirty beards, as you see in the picture here. They're known for, like I said, being cannibals, killing people, dragging them back, and eating them. And there's been several movies like your horror movie Wrong Turn, kind of based on feral people. There was uh, that Netflix show American Horror Story. They did an episode on the feral people. Hey, Kathy, welcome in. Um, and they talked about how the feral people would encounter people who would hike that trail. They would people that would camp out in those woods. They would catch them and mess with them at night while they were in their tents. In the movie Woodsman, you can actually see that happen when because it's based on the feral people. There is a guy in there. He's an actual Bigfoot researcher named Connor that stars in that movie, and he's actually gets killed by the feral people in the movie. In the first beginning of the movie, he goes to check out the cave and encounters one of them. They say they don't wear any shirts either. You can see their hair, chests all hair, and they don't. associate with very many people in the Appalachia, which I'll see if I can find another picture of them for you guys. But with them feral people, I mean, I've talked to some people that live in Tennessee their whole life, and nobody's actually also ever encountered them as well. But you figure they date back all the way to the 1800s. We don't know for sure if any of them are even living anymore out there. And this is one of the feral people they've actually caught on film. And there's a YouTuber out there that talks about them all the time. He did a whole documentary story on the Appalachia feral people. Um, there was a girl that actually went missing. She, they believe she got captured by the feral people out there, and they killed her. They never did find her and find her body. Um, as you see, they don't groom, they don't brush their hair. Their bodies are all hairy. Hey, Jim, welcome in. We're talking about feral people that live in the Appalachia and the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky. We were just talking about the Tennessee wild man, but I mean, even these feral people could be even the Tennessee wild man. You don't. It's hard to say. I mean, you can kind of see resemblance. I mean, with the beard, the hair, and then you see the feral people with the exact same kind of look. I mean, it's hard to explain without going out there trying to debunk it, but I mean, I wouldn't want to encounter one of these feral people if they're cannibals, and so it makes you kind of question about going out into the woods and investigating. I hope after this show you guys don't have nightmares, or especially when you go out and investigate in the woods, be looking around for feral people. Um, but like I said, there was a park ranger, I believe in the '90s, that and he encountered the feral people as well, and he's actually a survivor. He was attacked by a feral person, and he ended up taking off and survived. And he told his story about it. Like I said, the YouTuber guy that talked about it, you can find him if you Google the feral people. You can find that YouTuber guy talking about it, and he actually interviewed the ranger that survived an attack from these feral people. He didn't disclose his name or anything like that. I think due to privacy and that he didn't want people thinking he was crazy. But you can actually see that in the movie Woodsman, where the ranger gets attacked. He takes an anthropologist out that is out there studying stuff, and they get caught up in a rainstorm, and they decide they're going to camp out there. Well, when they did that out there, it got dark. Ranger's in one tent, he's in another, and he starts hearing these growls because that's how they communicate. They can't talk. They growl, they snort, or they do this clicking sound, and that's how they communicate, or kind of like a whistle to each other. Um, and this anthropologist was in his tent, and he's starting to hear all these sounds, branches breaking, and he starts hearing the clicks, the grunts, and the growls, and he starts freaking out, Well, he happens to look out his tent, he don't see nothing, and closes his tent back up. He's sitting there and he starts hearing more, and this time it's getting closer. Well, he shines the camera out the tent, and there's one of these feral people hiding behind a tree, looking at him. And he closes his tent back up. He's about this time, he's freaking out. Well, the sound gets closer. That feral person breaks into his tent, rips right through it, and he takes off running. The same feral guy gets knocked out by the ranger, gets back up and hits the ranger with something. Ranger's knocked out. Well, the anthropologist takes off through the woods and ends up finding a girl that's out there. She went out there to spread her dad's ashes in the creek, and she got caught. It started getting dark, and she didn't try to hike out of there. Well, he ends up finding her, and the feral people start chasing him, and there's more than one. And they finally make it to this guy's campsite. Well, the feral people manage to make it there too. The guy goes to get to his truck. Feral people kill the one guy and then attack the girl and the anthropologist and ends up stabbing the anthropologist in the stomach. And the ranger finally shows up and shoots him, and they end up taking off, and they both survive that. And that's based on a true story that actually happened out there. And so there is and paranormal investigators that do go out there into those woods to try to find them. But like I said, I don't know if any of them would be living anymore because a lot of these date back to the 1800s when your Civil War went on and the soldiers were running people out of the South, and these miners were getting arrested. So a lot of them went and hid back in the mines because people wouldn't go back in there because a lot of those mines are dangerous, and you never know if that ground's going to shift and collapse the mine on you. So that is a little story on the feral people from what I've learned from researching. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to post them up in the chat. Hey, Brandon Cooper, welcome in. I don't know if you've heard of any of that legend down in South Carolina, because I know you got the mountains that stretch down from North Carolina into South Carolina with them, and I know uh, those mountains got some strange history in North Carolina as well. Hey, Kara, welcome in. If you just joined me, we're talking about the feral people of the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia. And we were talking about Tennessee Wild Man, which is cryptid in Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains that's supposed to be a form of Bigfoot, but he's more human and he's more aggressive. He has a thing for capturing women and dogs, but men, he'll kill a man. Oh, nice. Did have you experienced any stuff like that, like the wild man or the feral people? Have heard any legends on them? If you have, feel free to put them in the chat. I mean, like I said, I've talked to some people from Tennessee, and some people have never even heard of the feral people or the Tennessee wild man. But that is supposedly what they're supposed to look like, is a drawing that somebody had drawn up of them. And you figure with them living and moving around in the dark with no light in their eyes, living in those dark mines, you would figure that they would be blind or something like that. I have heard. Heard of them. Heard of them. However, strict rules not going outside at night. Oh, I'm sure I hear a lot of stuff about the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains about all the strange stuff that goes on. Like I was talking earlier, there's a movie called The Hunted with Josh Stewart, and that was based on him when he was in college. And he went deer hunting this piece of property, and they heard this ghost of this woman screaming through the woods. Kathy, they claim they have found them, that they encounter them in the national parks of the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains. Um, they're said to believe that they live in the old mine shafts, that they're old miners that hid out from the Civil War soldiers because they were arresting the miners back then. So these people hid out in the mines away from people in society, and they can't talk. Um, all they can do is kind of like grunt, um, whistle. That's how they communicate, or they do a clicking sound with their mouth. Is where they're said to live in the national parks and all in the old mine shafts and stuff like that. Um, People have encountered them. There was a ranger, like I was talking earlier, that said he survived an attack from the feral people. He come across them. There's been several paranormal investigators that's been out looking for him as well. So I mean, now they could be just an urban legend or paranormal because I mean these people date back to the 1800s. So hopefully that answers your question on that. Kara, what other stuff have you heard about the Appalachia? No, I don't think they're Marines. Great. I know you're picking on Brandon. Um, I mean, like the Screaming Woman of the Appalachia is another urban legend. Like I said, Josh Stewart. In the movie, there was a cabin that sat back up in the mountains, and he decided they wanted to do a hunting video, so they went up to the West Virginia Appalachian Mountains, met with this guy who leased this piece of property, and there's an old cabin that sat up there. The only things left of it is the chimney. Well, the story goes that the woman husband used to beat her really bad, and one day she finally had enough of it. She turned the double barrel shotgun on him and killed him up there in the cabin. And with the pain and anger, she couldn't take it, so she went down by the river and shot herself. And she is said to be the one screaming through the woods, which other reports I've heard and read that it has been debunked, that the screaming that they hear out there is bobcat screams and mountain lion screams from it. And they do, if you're a hunter, you've ever been in the woods like early in the morning or at night after dark and hear those screams, they are like blood curdling screams. They do sound like a woman screaming through the woods when one of them mountain lions or them bobcats start screaming. Um, but the movie is based on his actual experience filming that hunting video, and um, but back to the feral people. I mean, I've tried to find some video on it to show you guys, but there is no video on them that people have encountered them. people talking about them like they're just an urban legend now. But I mean, you figure if they are out there, I mean, they could probably keep the generation going with interbreedings and stuff like that. But I I don't know. I mean, without actually going out there and investigating it for sure. But to me, I think it's just kind of an urban legend type thing. But I mean, I would love to hear stories. If anybody's got any stories of encountering these people, we can do another episode show on them. If people are watching that have lived up there and experienced them and heard stories about them, feel free to reach out to me and we will do another show on the feral people. If anybody else has got any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. If you want to know more about people that just tuned in, the Catskill Mountain Witch monster, um, and the Tennessee Wild Man. That's what we're talking about tonight with the whole urban legends with them and people that spot them. Like I said, the Catskill Witch, I've heard stories of that since I was a kid growing up there. Um, and I know the town, Smallwood. My dad used to work there doing carpentry work in Smallwood. We used to go out there fishing by there, and I never knew that the legend was true about that witch. I always thought it was just an old wives' tale that people would tell just to scare people. Um, but living in the Catskill Mountains has got its share of Bigfoot's hauntings. That's a mysterious place too. I mean, the old resorts up there all have haunting history to it. History of Civil War, been through the Catskill Mountains up through there because of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania being right near there. The town I lived in was actually an old 1800s town next to Pennsylvania where the old train station was haunted. Um, there was people, that hotel in town had confirmed deaths in it. A wife decided to shoot her husband out on the front doorstep because he was messing around with another woman. And then kind of history repeated itself in this place. The owner was showing off a pistol to a guy that was going to buy it. Never bothered to check it to see if it was loaded. His waitress was coming to walk through the door, and the gun went off and shot her dead right there in the dining room. So that hotel is actually still working, built in the 1800s. It's still operational and open. We never did get to go in there and do an investigation in there. We ended up moving out here to Missouri, so I never got to go in there. But the old Grosinger Hotel, which is up in the Catskill Mountains, um, that it's actually ripped down now. It sat abandoned for quite a few years. Um, it it has its haunting history. The owner died in her house. My dad and I can share experiences from that place. Him and I walked through there. Since I worked on the golf course up there, I had permission to go into the hotel even though it was abandoned, but you had to be very careful. Um, Him and I were both walking down the hallway. He was coming from one direction, I was coming from another, and we both watched the door fly open with force to one of the rooms and then slam shut with force, and we thought maybe there was a homeless guy in there, and he wanted to get away from us because he figured he was caught being the place was abandoned. Well, we went to the door, opened it up. Now, mind you, we are up on like the 15th floor. So We walked in the room, there was nothing, there's no place to hide, you can't hide under the beds because the beds sit too close to the floor, so nobody can crawl under them. Can't jump out a window. The bathroom, he couldn't hide in the bathroom, there was not the tubs and everything and the showers were all gone because people raided the building for copper. We can never explain it or debunk it. Another instance in there, we were down in the basement, and they have tunnels underground in there that go between the hotel and several other buildings. Well, we were walking down that corridor in that tunnel. My dad and I both seen this black figure shoot down this tunnel. So I decided I was gonna go chase after it. He was gonna circle around. And I went down this dark, eerie tunnel. Walls are cracking all the way to the other end. That shadow shot between my father and ran and went under this abandoned house that was caving in into the basement that you couldn't get into. Kathy says, I've seen videos of people who live out in the Appalachian area saying smart people are inside by dark and have the curtains pulled as there are a lot of strange things happening at night. Yeah, there's a lot of reports in the Appalachia about your Bigfoots being out there. There's been hundreds of Bigfoot sightings throughout those Appalachian mountains. Um, the Tennessee wild man's another one creature that they say they see out there. But I mean, like your moonshiners out there, I don't know. I would love to hear a lot of their tales because I mean they're out at night in those mountain ranges in the dark making moonshine in those woods. I mean, I'm sure they've got to encounter a lot of that stuff going on out there in the woods, hearing these strange whoops and screams and growls from a lot of these creatures out there. Um, I mean, it's hard to say with these people being out there, um, if it's even true or not, or if they're even still around. I mean, I don't see any documentation or history that people are actually seeing them. I mean, I would like to see it. We're supposed to go on a Bigfoot expedition with Carter Bashard out here in Missouri. He's a Bigfoot researcher, and he's got more than thousand reports published of sightings here in Missouri. He goes down to the Mark Twain National Forest quite a bit, which is sort of like the Appalachian Mountains and stuff because it's down in the Ozark Mountains and it's heavily wooded. And there is a cemetery out there that is said to be haunted and demonic out there. Um, they talk about, he was telling me a story which you can see if you go back through the previous podcast on Supernatural Inc. here. I had him on the show and we had talked about there was that cemetery that sits in the Mark Twain National Forest. You cannot get a vehicle in there. Nobody can get back there. There is a cross, he said, was laying on the ground, and when he went back, this cross is standing up. Now, this cross has got to weigh a good 5 to 600 pounds. Something just stood it up like it was nothing in that cemetery. So, whatever it was, and he actually wrote a book on it, on that down there, and about how intelligent a Bigfoot is. I mean, they say the Tennessee wild man is very intelligent too. I mean, you would figure with a Bigfoot, I mean, they can push trees over, they can throw things, so you know they're intelligent. They hunt, fish, So, I mean, and I think that's also like with these feral people here. I think besides being cannibalistic and capturing people when they come through the trails and stuff, I believe they know how to hunt and fish and live off the land as well. They probably know what plants they can eat, and I mean, mushrooms and stuff like that. Like out here, that big thing is here in Missouri. When the first spring comes and we get that first rain and that humidity, these people out here in Missouri, they go crazy over the morel mushrooms. They're out there in the woods picking them like crazy. So, if anybody else has any questions, feel free to throw them up. We're only going to do an hour show tonight. Um, like I was telling earlier, people that joined in, my guests for tonight had to reschedule due to a public event. But SRS Paranormal will be on with me next weekend, and we'll be talking about some paranormal. They are out of Tennessee, so maybe I could pick their brain and with their on the feral people, and then also the Tennessee Wild Man. A lot going on, and always has been, even in Canada, Lake of the Woods. I've seen signs for over 50 years. Yeah, I mean it's all over the United States. I mean, for us, even out here in Missouri, there's reports the Momo monster. The closest report is back in the 70s, back in Gallatin, Missouri. Somebody actually experienced the Momo monster, but he has not been reported in since then. I mean, everybody spots regular Sasquatches down in the Ozarks, but and I mean, people interpret bears too for a lot of that stuff. You see this black bear standing up over 6 feet tall from a distance in the dark is going to look like some kind of creature. Also, I mean, I've lived where black bears were present, and I mean, I've seen them in the woods where they'll stand up on their hind legs, especially your boar black bears. They stand even taller than the sows, so they get up there pretty tall. So I mean, you see them in the dark, that could be something people are seeing too until you're able to actually debunk it. I mean, eh, hey Grenzer, thanks for tuning in tonight. Yeah, that's a feral human. That's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the feral people of the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains. They live in the national parks and they are supposed to be cannibalistic. Some believe they're old miners that escaped arrest from the Civil War. Um, and countless people go missing each year in the mountains, hiking the trails, and they interpreted a lot of it to mountain lions and animals, but a lot of times they don't find the people. They just disappear. They don't find them off cliffs. They don't find them in rivers. They don't find them on the woods or in the trails. So it's kind of like a mystery how they just vanish like that. I mean, yeah, mountain lions will drag their kills and drag them up in trees, but I mean, nobody's ever found them in trees either. And mountain lions will even bury their food too under leaves and branches and stuff, and they'll come back to it later. But I mean, some people say, like with the Sasquatch, that it's a grizzly bear. There's no grizzly bears here on the east side in the Appalachian Mountains, or I'm sure there's black bears, but not grizzly bears. And I I think one theory was that the famous case of the disappearance of Dennis Martin was taken by a feral human. Yeah, I've heard of that case. Do you know if they actually found any proof that it was a feral human that actually took him? Russell, do you think there's a link with feral humans and the David? It could be, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna deny it. It could happen. I mean, yeah, I mean they never did find Dennis Martin. I mean, there's that documentary out about missing 401 about hunters going missing in the woods, and it's based on the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains, and even in the mountains of North Carolina. I mean, with them living in the mine shafts and stuff like that, they can just grab somebody and drag them back down into the mines, and nobody will ever find them because not many people are brave enough to go into them old mine shafts with them collapsing like that. Yeah, you're right, Greg. It's 411. Yep. But no, I've never hiked any of the Appalachian Trail. I mean, that is one place I'd like to go out to with all the mysteries that are going on. I like to go out there and do some investigations. I got some friends out in Tennessee, so one day I may go out there and hike that Appalachian Trail in the Smoky Mountains and do some researching. And but if I do, I know I'm packing because I am not gonna get dragged away by one of them feral people if they are real out there. But I mean, I think most of it with them why they're aggressive too because they're afraid you're gonna come in and try to run them out. Could be also. I mean, and they're surviving. Yeah, Kentucky's the same too. I've heard there's mysteries out of Kentucky as well with it. From what I read, they do stretch. There's been reports of them in Kentucky. Yeah, they say that's what happens. They swarm you, and if you get caught out in them woods at night, they'll scare you and try to run you off somewhere so you get lost. And they know them woods like the back of their hand. So I mean, living out there and running those woods, you get used to it. And I'm sure they probably because they are aggressive. Yeah, especially with the grays. Yeah. And hey, Jimmy Ricker. Speaking of a Tennessee native, welcome in. Yeah, we're still talking about the Pharaoh people, and then Granzer, we were talking about this creature here. This is known as the Tennessee Wild Man. That is another form of Bigfoot, but he's more human. And he, well, a lot of it had to contribute with the economical depression back in the 1800s. The jobs were drying up in the Appalachia Mountains, and so they were miners who evaded arrest during wars and retreated into the mountains and became feral. So they're basically trying to protect their land too. There was a paranormal investigator in Tennessee that shared stories of searching for the feral people in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, And then there's some people that shared stories that their dirty beards, curly fingernails, and eyes seemed empty and wild. Yeah, Kathy, they're said to be cannibalistic, that they do eat people. Russell, have you ever had Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Central on your stream? He may be a good one to interview on Bigfoot if you need one. No, yeah. If you know him, have him reach out to me. Definitely, I'd get him on there. That's your family. The Pharaoh people are your family, Jimmy? Or are you saying Duke Sullivan? But yeah, I mean, Kathy, they, and that could be contribute to why people go missing all the time on those national park trails. Right? It's one thing to just live off the land, but another to go feral like that. They seem to lose their minds. Yeah, I mean, you figure if you're living in a cave system in the dark and it's enough to drive somebody crazy, and then you got people trying to run you off your land, and which drove them into the mountains to evade arrest. You figure during the Civil War, when that war was going on, of course they're wanting to escape it so they don't get arrested, and they contribute to fires and all that. They were setting fires as well out there too. So I mean, like I said, there's several movies that interpret the Pharaoh people. Wrong Turn was one of them. Is a good example of the Pharaoh people that live in the Appalachian Mountains. Um, Woodsman is another one, which is more closely to the Pharaoh people living in the woods and mine caves and stuff like that. And that tells the story about the girl that encountered it that got lost in the woods, and about the park ranger that survived an attack from the Pharaoh people. Um, and then American Horror Story did an episode on Pharaoh people, which is, I believe, it's still on Netflix. And you would figure with them being in the dark like that, their eyes would turn like beet red, or they would even be, like I said, even be blind living in those mine shafts in those dark. And I don't even know how they would survive in a lot of the mine shafts because with them collapsing and stuff like that, and there's no airflow. So that's another reason why they probably went they're crazy is the way they are and feral because of living in those old mine shafts up there. I mean, like I said, these moonshiners that moonshine in these backwoods at night, I'm sure they hear a lot of strange things and stories. And yeah, Hills Have Eyes is, yeah, another one where they lived in the mines and stuff like that, and they were deformed. And in the mines, I don't know what they would eat. Maybe rats, bugs, like, and then bats, and and I'm sure they probably wait for people. I'm sure they probably know how to trap as well. They probably set traps for people too. Hey, Krista Marie, welcome in. We're talking about feral people of the Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky and North Carolina and West Virginia. Um, yeah, I think they would. Yeah, Jimmy, I'm sure with you being a moonshiner and stuff, you do hear A lot of strange things back in those woods in Tennessee. I mean, between the reports of Bigfoot, the Tennessee wild man, these feral people, the screaming woman of the Appalachia. I'm surprised you guys don't have like Bigfoot watching you guys moonshine, seeing what you're doing. But do you hear any like clicks or whistles or anything like that in the woods? I haven't heard any reports of feral people here in Missouri unless they live down in the Ozark Mountains. I mean, that would be the closer place for them to really survive. That's more wooded. Where up here in like north central Missouri, I mean, we got woods, but it's more flat land and there's not much habitat for them to live in. That's why the Bigfoots don't live up here uh, in Missouri. I mean, they did an episode of Finding Bigfoot here in Missouri and Kansas, and they didn't find anything up towards this way, but we hear reports down south Missouri all the time down in the Ozarks. And I mean, the Ozark Mountains are just like the Appalachian Mountains and Smoky Mountains. It's heavily wooded and stuff like that. So they hear stuff all the time down there. Yeah. I mean, if you're hearing them, Jimmy, it could possibly be those feral people out there in those woods. I'm sure you guys probably hear a lot of Bigfoot, like samurai, what Carter calls them samurai chatter. It sounds like two Japanese arguing back and forth, is how he best describes Bigfoot chatter. Um, but but like they said with those feral people, they can't talk, so they grunt, they whistle, they make clicking sounds because they don't know how to talk. There is a YouTube video out there. This guy helps his family. They're kind of like a feral family that live back up in the woods of West Virginia. Um, some of them can't talk. They grunt. Yeah, they know how to start fires. That's what they've been accused for. Starting fires back in the wars and stuff and burning stuff down on the soldiers that to try to get them out of there, away from their land. I mean, that's probably what they're even when people come hiking, these feral people, they're probably figuring these people are trespassing on their land. They want to run them out of here. Yes, I seen that. They're inbred. Yeah, and that's how they. Another good example of them is the TV show The Outsiders, where that clan, the Pharaoh clan, lived up in the mountains, and they had their own language, um, their own rules, their own laws, but they weren't as and they were aggressive as like these people when anybody came up into the mountains. But they weren't cannibals in the show or anything like that. They ate off deer and animals. I mean, these probably do too. They probably eat animals, not only people. And I mean, there's still a lot of mysteries of a lot of missing people out there in the Appalachia that were hunting and disappeared. And with it, I mean, you hear reports all the time that hikers are going missing in the trails up there in the national parks. And that's what they, say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there after dark. And as what they say, don't be out there And there was another one I watched. A woman was hiking the whole Appalachian Trail, and she just up and vanished. They found she stayed at the one shelter, and she ended up going missing, and they never did find her. Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot. He is a good one to listen to. Okay, thank you. I'll definitely check him out. Um, but she they never did find her. They thought an animal got her, a mountain lion, a bear. They did find where she slept that night, and then her tracks just vanished. Nobody, the rangers, they did a big manhunt for her. They never found her. I mean, I'm sure Montana's even got its share of it too, because I mean, Montana's an old mining town, and I'm sure they've got their share. I know they've got their share of missing persons. Guy I worked with, Coach Ed Fry, he used to be search and rescue for the Montana Rangers. He used to hike those mountains looking for people, doing manhunts for people that went missing. But up there, you got your mountain lions, your bears, your wolves. So, I mean, it's probably the same all over. I did see a report that feral people have been spotted in the mountains of California too, out there. So, I mean, it's hard to say without actually investigating. Hey Jimmy, if I come to Tennessee, we're gonna go check out the mystery of it in those backwoods and see if we can find them. I used to live in Tennessee. I've heard more than once had first accounts from a former police officer. I'm surprised they're not all hunted down by the catamounts. Yeah, I know. That's why I'm wondering if a lot of it is just urban legend type stuff that because you figure that people would be trying to hunt these people down and trying to get them out of there if they're eating people and killing people. Has anybody reported something like that? That's the known as the Tennessee Wild Man, which is supposed to be a human like Bigfoot, stands 7 feet tall, more aggressive. He has a thing for kidnapping women and dogs, but kills men. And if anybody's got any more questions, feel free to post them in the chat. But yeah, with these feral people, I mean, like I said, it's probably a lot of it's urban legend. A lot of it could be just wise tale. I mean, until I'm one of those, I want to see evidence. I want to see one on film of one of these people in these woods. I mean, it's probably hard because of how aggressive they are. Jimmy, if we do it, we're packing. I'm not facing them unarmed. I don't, especially if they like to eat people. Uh, TV. I did some research on the history of the Appalachian Mountains and the mysteries of it. I grew up on the East Coast in the Catskill Mountains, so we have our share of legends there as well. So, and that's with it stretching all the way down to the Pocono Mountains, the Appalachian, and all that. So I've kind of grown into the history. So I've heard about the Pharaoh people. I've also seen movies on the Pharaoh people. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people native of Tennessee have not heard of the feral people. But, yeah, I mean, I could see why they're afraid to go in the woods. Yeah, Greg, I don't blame you. But I could see why people are afraid to go in the woods and encounter them. I mean, especially if they are cannibalistic, you wouldn't want to go into them woods and from a paranormal standpoint, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they are real or they're paranormal, if they're transparent, or they're solid human beings like you and I are. I mean, it would be interesting to see if you could capture one of them on film or if it's something darker. I mean, the Appalachians known for some of their rituals down there too as well, and Smoky Mountains are. I first heard about feral people in the case of Dennis Martin when they said they believed Dennis got taken by them. This was what, late 60s? I heard about in the 70s. Yeah. I mean, there is that case of Dennis Martin. Like I said, there's a guy on YouTube that talks about the feral people in the Appalachian Mountains and about the ranger. He interviewed that ranger that actually survived an attack from them. And that ranger is now retired from the ranger service. Yeah, Jimmy, we're gonna try this year to make Smoky Mountain Terror. Like I said, I got a buddy also that lives out there in Tennessee. But yeah, I was a little. What the heck is feral people? I mean, I've heard of feral animals, but not feral people until I started doing some research on them and watched that movie, The Woodsman, on Tubi, and that's about the feral people and about that Bigfoot researcher Connor star. Like I said, stars in it, and he gets killed by one of them in the beginning of the movie. He's out there looking for Bigfoot and ends up finding a cave, and he's out there with a girl that's filming. They're filming it, and he ends up getting killed by one of them, and then the girl gets killed. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check it out. And I mean, if you guys are interested in checking out the Missouri Bigfoot, be sure to check out Carter Bouchard out here in Missouri. He's our Bigfoot researcher out here that and some of the pictures I've seen, some compelling evidence that he's captured. It's not you can't debunk it. You can tell it's not photoshopped or anything like that. He's got game cameras of literal of a Bigfoot hand reaching out to the camera. But I mean, oh, you're welcome, Linda. Russell, what's a good contact to reach you so that he can email me at beyondlifeparanormalresearch@gmail.com, or he can reach me on Facebook on Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri. Cold Spotters Missouri is another way to get a hold of me on it. He can also message me privately on Facebook, my name. Um, so, but yeah, again, with these feral people, like I said, I don't know fact or fiction if they are real or they urban legend type stuff. I would love to see somebody capture one on there on film and Hey, Linda. Hey, Becca. Yeah, just have them email me, Transer, and I'll definitely get them on the show. Let's give up paranormal and start looking for Bigfoot. I don't think I'd ever give up paranormal. I'd do both, if anything. I mean, I'd love to check out cryptid stuff and capture evidence of cryptid. That would be awesome to capture a Bigfoot on camera. I know Carter captured one on thermal. He was telling me that it transformed to an orb right in front of his face. Started off as a humanoid figure and then shapeshift to an orb and just disappeared. Um, I mean, Bigfoot's always been a fascination too for me. I mean, growing up in New York, I've hunted all my life, I grew up in the woods. I've never experienced anything like that with Bigfoot or the whoops. I mean, I've been in woods in pitch dark. Where I grew up on the hill I lived on, my whole backyard was woods, and it was up on top of a mountain. And I mean, you'd hear animals at night, but you wouldn't. I never encountered any strange Bigfoot sounds or anything like that. But I mean, it was kind of well populated all around the outside of it. A lot of farms and stuff like that, but you never hear anything strange go on. Not like, and I mean, these were dense woods. We had swamps and stuff like that in there, and nobody ever encountered them, encountered anything up there. I mean, my cousin was born and raised there as well. He's never encountered encountered anything. I mean, yeah, it'd be awesome to go check out these feral people on Bigfoot, see if we can encounter the legends of them. I mean, be something good for researching and development of it both. I mean, like I said, you moonshiners got to have some interesting stories of the stuff in the backwoods, being out there at night, all hours of the night, late at night, hearing footsteps, branches breaking, these stuff getting thrown. I mean, I get stuff thrown at me in the paranormal outside, so I can imagine just what it is when Bigfoot's throwing rocks at you. But yeah, if anybody has any more questions, feel free to post them up in the chat. We'll go probably another 20 minutes. Russell, are you surprised that there is no content creator out there that solely looks for feral people? Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, I did find a report of from a paranormal investigator in Tennessee has shared stories of searching for the feral people in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And I mean, you don't hear nothing either on the Tennessee wild man either. And that is like the Catskill witch, which is her right there. Um, you don't hear people checking out her legend either because they say if they get near that lake, you feel the wrath of her. And she dates back to Native American time in the Catskill Mountains where I grew up. Well, there's probably not a lot of people that has ever heard about them. I mean, there's some people I've talked to from Tennessee that's never heard of the feral people, and that's why I'm surprised. Like Josh Gates and stuff, Destination Truth when he did it, and Destination X, he hasn't checked out the legend of the feral people. I do know there's a place in the Smoky Mountains that people are not allowed to camp due to heavy Bigfoot activity there. Oh, wow. Yeah, I never heard that, but I'm sh I'm sure there's probably, like, a Bigfoot clan out there in that area where it's heavy, but yeah, I mean, like, I think the people that would really know stuff would be forest rangers, but I think they can't talk about. Yeah. I mean, like, that one forest ranger that did encounter the feral people here, he actually asked to be anonymous in that YouTube video when the guy interviewed him about his experience in surviving the attack from them. I heard that one time some feral were hippies who tried to avoid the draft, are done with society, and they just lost it while being out there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of them that tried to avoid the draft back in Vietnam days and stuff like that, and probably did go out and live in the woods. And I mean, yeah, I mean, you're in solitude by yourself, no one to talk to. Eventually, that does start weighing on you psychological to the point where you're gonna lose it and go crazy, and that's probably what went on with these feral people. They lost it being out there, being isolated, trying to hide from society, and that's why they turned feral, and they just went nuts and just started going after people that came up there. But I mean, if you look at that picture I got on the screen, that looks more kind of like paranormal of the feral people being out there. And yeah, your mind does break down because you're left alone with your own thoughts. And that too will weigh on you psychological, and then it starts breaking your mind down, and then you just lose it and go crazy. I mean, there also could be another paranormal influence out there too with them too that influenced them to be the way they are. We don't know for sure if that's what it is, or there's not enough history to back up anything with it as far as them going out of their way being the way they are. And who knows too? You're talking about my mind again, Linda. But you never know too. How do you know they're not something that escape prisoners as well? That's another theory that could something to think about. Maybe they escaped prison and made it out into the woods and lived in there, or escaped mental patients hiding from trying to get picked up. Russell, while it was a TV show in the '80s, Magnum PI, there was a combat vet who was feral. He couldn't adjust back to society and lived out in the woods. Yeah. I mean, your soldiers, yeah, there's another theory, Greg. That's actually a good point. What if they're not from here? They could be from another realm that's disguising themselves as a human person. But yeah, I mean, Granzer also has a good point too. Soldiers that come back from the war. I mean, back in like your Vietnam days and stuff, a lot of the soldiers weren't welcome back home. They weren't treated very well. They felt society was against them. So a lot of them went crazy and went off the grid, and a lot of them with the PTSD and stuff like that too. I mean, yeah, Bigfoot can possibly navigate cave systems. Yeah, I mean that's a good nesting spot for Bigfoot too, is in a cave system in the old mine. They came through a portal, or they hybrid children that were dropped off by aliens. Maybe a hybrid that didn't turn out the way aliens want it. Yeah, I mean there's another good point in theory on these feral people. Um, they came through a portal. I mean, with all the mysteries and the paranormal stuff that goes on in those mountains, I mean, there's got to be a portal somewhere. I mean, you got the creeks, the running water, which sparks up energy, and they've got the good limestone water in Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia, that those minerals spark up energy. I mean, we've got the limestone here in Missouri, and we've got a lot of haunted stuff that goes on here in Missouri as well. So, I mean, it is a possibility that there's a portal opened up somewhere that they came through. I mean, with that image, that kind of looks like a paranormal image of them. Russell, what are your thoughts on portals? Do you believe them? If so, why, or how did you come? I do believe in portals. I mean, I've encountered them in people's homes investigating. And my theory on portals is a door to the other side, to the spirit world, which lets everything in, not only your regular spirits, it also lets in your darker demonic stuff too. I mean, mirrors are a good example of portals. We were A good example of that was an investigation we did for this client in Kansas City. They had a portal in the basement. Um, we closed it. Somehow it opened back up. So we got called to go back out there. This time it had let something demonic in their home. The client was reporting seeing a hoofed figure peeking around the cabinet in the kitchen. Um, it was coming up out of the basement through the bedroom floor, and it would hide in the closet, and then it would come up through the basement stairs into the kitchen. Well, when we were there they had a mirror up on top of a dresser, and my dad was watching the cameras, and he watched this figure come out of this mirror, and I was sitting in front of the mirror down on the floor, and it was standing right over the top of me, and I could smell it. It had a real bad smell, and it went under the bed. I decided to look under the bed because, I mean, this smell was strong, and it got even stronger on the bed. And I had made the comment, it smells like ass under this bed. And come to find out, that's the entity was making it smell under that bed. Well, then the entity figured out that we knew where it was. It moved back on. So we decided to go investigate where she claimed she spotted it in the kitchen. And about that time, I'm standing by the basement stairs, by the basement door, and something comes flying right through me and slams me right into the basement door. It tried to push me down the stairs, but I wasn't close enough to the stairs, so it threw me into the door instead, and I ended up with 3 scratches on my arm from it. It was after my one member, who was a medium, and I was in its way. And I will never forget that night when it did that, and then finally, we were able to get rid of it. We cleansed it and got rid of it and closed the portal. Yeah, I mean, I'm heavily protected before I go into a location, so that's another reason why it threw me into the door because it didn't like the religious medal I was wearing. I wear a Saint Benedict's medal that's been blessed when I go out, and when before I even go into a house at home here, we spray holy water on ourselves and our car and everything. There is a portal near Riddletown, Tennessee, has 2 or 3 caves on the property. I saw some really weird stuff there. One cave was fully of crystals, saw orbs and really mind-blowing stuff. Yeah, because you got a lot of those crystals or in them caves that are kicking off energy between the water flowing through a lot of those cave systems, and then you got your limestone crystals. You got your quartz is another big conductor of energy that the paranormal can use to manifest themselves. And so, yeah, I mean, we've got caves here in Missouri that are haunted. I know KD goes and tests his spirit boxes in the cave, so you don't get no radio coming through his boxes. He goes down in caves and tests them out because you get no radio reception in caves, and he gets results in the caves. I've noticed on some of his sessions that he's done. Yeah, Greg, energy. Yeah, those cave systems have a lot of energy to them. So I could see why there'd be a portal in those caves. And with these pharaoh people living in the mine shafts and stuff like that too. There's if they are paranormal, then there is energy in those caves for them to manifest themselves to a full-bodied apparition. And I mean, it you never know how real or if they are paranormal or if they're coming through portals. That would be a good theory to go test out, try to find a portal and see if one of these feral people actually show themselves through a portal. That would be a good something to document and video footage that of a feral people coming through a portal or actually hiding and trying to see if they actually are real and walking through the woods as a normal human being. Yeah, I mean, that could be what makes them strong, yeah, is all that energy. And then with their testosterone and same with a Bigfoot. I mean, they say that Bigfoot is also part of the paranormal. They say they're shapeshifters. I mean, what if these feral people, that's what they are too, shapeshifters? That is something that'd be interesting to test that theory out. Yeah, superhuman. I mean, if they're strong enough to grab a 300-pound human being and drag them off like nothing by themselves, they've got to be pretty strong and superhuman. I mean, well, if you look at like The Hills Have Eyes with the radiation, what they were superhuman. They had superhuman strength. Wrong Turn, another good example. And yeah, like Bigfoot snapping trees over and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, that's what they say with the Tennessee Wild Man. He's got superhuman strength that he can snap trees and break limbs and snap people in half. And I mean, it could be just another Bigfoot. I mean, it's hard to say. There's several different types of species of Bigfoot out there. Yeah, Bigfoot, Dog Man, Owl Man, Mothman. I mean, and then there was one I was watching, and they spotted a werewolf looking thing, which was a dog man, and that thing stood 7 feet tall, muscle bound, and it had kind of like a dog looking face. And this guy was telling the story how they experienced it, and he shot it with a 357 Magnum, and the thing just stood there and looked at him like it didn't even phase it. And we were at a paranormal convention, and we had a guy kid come up and talk to us about it was actually a lady come up with her 2 kids. They were actually where they were talking, they were hearing Bigfoots out in the wild, and I said Carter was next to us, and I said, that's the man over there that you need to talk to about that. We're more paranormal, but he would be the man to talk to about the Bigfoot stuff." Said if a moose, bear, elk, eagle pass you, it means that Goey is after them, so you better run fast. Yeah, I've heard of that. Well, that's like the what is that one called that lives in the woods and it wears deer horns? Not the rake. Trying to think of the name of what that monster is, and that's said to live in the woods out there in Tennessee, North Carolina, the Appalachian, Louisiana. It also lives in the Ozarks, and they're supposed to be aggressive. And yep, Wendigo. Yep, that's it. The Wendigo, and they wear the deer horns and the skulls. And they're said to have deer horns on their heads. I'll see if I can find a picture of it, and I will put it up for you so people can see what we're talking about. Those are what they call Wendigos. Yeah, Wendigos are more of a nasty wood spirit. Heard that the Ted's haired Bigfoot is are more aggressive. Yeah, them our local Bigfoot, the Momo monster, is very aggressive. He's kind of like the reddish brown with beady eyes, and he's known to be aggressive. I'll see if I can find a picture of our Momo monster. What he said, look at, and he's known to have like 3 fingers on each hand, and he also has 3 toes on each foot. But he's not as tall as a normal Bigfoot. This is our Momo monster, our Missouri Bigfoot. And as you can see, he's got the red beady eyes, the 3 fingers on each hand. But they are said to have superhuman strength. They're said to yeah, like a giant jack. Yeah. And they're known to just like a Bigfoot, but be more aggressive. They're known to kill people. And then we have the other Bigfoot here in Missouri called the Ozark Howler that lives in the Ozark Mountains. And the Ozark Mountains is another big hotspot for paranormal, Bigfoots, and a lot of mystery stuff that goes on down in the Ozarks. They're constantly experiencing Bigfoot, but yeah, the Wendigo, they're they're also known all over the world. And then you've also got your skinwalkers, which are shapeshifters too, that are spotted all over the world too as well. Which, if many people don't know, a skinwalker, which really by Native American standards you're not supposed to call them that. You're supposed to call them shapeshifters because Native Americans believe if you call them by that, you call them forward. They were known as Navajo witch doctors, and they are said to uh, do bad things. They're shapeshifters to different animals. Um, they can shapeshift to a dog, a hawk. Um, they like to frequent cemeteries, and they travel like 50 miles a night. And their theory is that they go to dig up graves in the cemetery to make other skinwalkers. Um, we encountered one. We got called for a case in a cemetery, and it ended up it was called a skinwalker. So we went out there to check it out, and I was getting some gear out of the car. My dad decided he was going to walk into the cemetery. He was in eye shot of me. The rest of the team was all in the back of the cemetery by the woods. Well, this red-tailed hawk flew up in the tree. So my dad started walking towards it, and that a red-tailed hawk will fly away if you walk up on it. This didn't. This just disappeared. It just vanished in midair. And then my dad was pinned up against a tree, and we had to get it off of him. His wrist here, he kept having like a bruise and a claw mark that kept showing up for like 2 weeks straight, and it made him very sick. He stayed in the car for the rest of the night. And so my one of my members came and got me and said, "Hey, you need to go back by these woods and listen. You can hear footsteps in the woods." This was before dark. This happened, and we were back there by the woods, and I look, and here's that same red-tailed hawk sitting in the tree watching us. And then, as fast as it was there, it was gone. So we stayed, investigated that night. We got back by the woods. One of my former members decided, "Oh, I'm going to go down here and check out by myself." She went down there. She heard something come running at her through the woods, and she turned around, and she was in 5 seconds. She was back behind me hiding. So we heard something up on the edge corner of the cemetery. So we walked up there, and I was leading the way. Another investigator friend of mine was with us, and he was right behind me. And it he shined the light, and he says, "Don't take one more step." I'm like, "Okay, why?" He said, "Look down." I looked down, and I was about 2 inches away from getting impaled through my guts by a fence post that it was leading me into. And then this owl right next to my head lets out a owl hoot like it was laughing. And that was that entity shapeshift to that owl. And in Native American belief, an owl at night, you see one even during the day, is an omen of death. is some Native American beliefs on the owl. Yeah, it nearly got him, and so we finished the night out, and nothing else happened. We kind of stayed away from the woods, and I think we left about midnight that night. Um, we did get some EVPs out of there, and but that is one thing we will never forget in all our lifetime. My dad and I are also part Native American, so we have a feeling that's also why it didn't hurt us the way that bad, because of us being Native American heritage. My grandma was full-blooded Comanche Indian, and the history of the Comanche, they are descendants of the Navajo tribes. So that's a little history about skinwalkers and stuff like that, which they do spot in Nevada, which is home of your Navajos. If anybody's got any more questions, we got about, let's see, about 12 minutes left of the show, and feel free to post them up. Any more paranormal about, any more about these feral people, and we'll recap for anybody who's just now tuning into the show. We were talking about the Catskill Mountain Witch, um, who is said to haunt the Catskill Mountains, and now she was the Great Spirit turned her into stone, which is now a mountain. And then the lake there, there's two mountain mounds in there that are said to be her eyes, and she controlled the weather. Anybody who would mock her, she would bring down lightning to destroy their houses. If they lived down near the river, she would flood their houses out, killing them. Native Americans, she would shape shift into a deer to lead the Native American hunters away to danger, and then sit there and laugh at them. And the Great Spirit had turned her into stone. Next, we were talking about the Tennessee Wild Man, which is a cryptid of the Tennessee Smoky Mountains. Um, the notes was that he was captured and was part of a freak show in a circus, and it dates back to the 1800s in McNairy County, Tennessee. Of the stories that is that a circus freak showman somehow captured the beast and put him on display in a cage where everyone can see him for exploitation until he finally broke free. Description of the Tennessee Wild Man is much similar in appearance to a Sasquatch, but only more human. He's got supposedly either dark gray hair or dark ginger hair and is about 7 feet tall. And he's got piercing red eyes. And he lets out a disturbing war cry. And he smells like a skunk ape. And then next we were talking about the Pharaoh people of the Smoky Mountains in Appalachia, which are said to be miners that escaped wars and from getting arrested, and they were setting fires to the soldiers' tents and all kinds of stuff, and they lived in the mountains wild and feral, and that they're cannibals, and they kidnap people that hike the trails and eat them and kill them. Um, and that was our topic for tonight. We got about 10 minutes left of the show. Feel free to chime in if you want to talk more paranormal or these feral people, Tennessee Wildman, the Catskill Witch. Like I was saying at the beginning of the show, I grew up in the Catskill Mountains, And I grew up in the woods in New York. I lived in the southern part of the Catskill Mountains in New York. Um, so we have our share of Bigfoots through that area as well. Like I said, I've never encountered a Bigfoot in all my years deer hunting. I've been in the woods since I was 4 years old with my dad, going hunting, hiking, fishing. I've never encountered a Bigfoot. I've encountered bobcats screaming and stuff like that, coyotes howling and stuff like that. But never encountered Bigfoot or any other cryptid stuff. I would love to go on cryptid, check it out. I'm very skeptical with them. I'd like to get one on film. I know people do. I mean, my buddy Carter's got several on camera. Um, some of the pictures that he sent me, he's got them on camera, a game camera of a Bigfoot hand in front of the camera. He's got pictures sent to him from a family where they raided their greenhouses. They'd go in there and indulge themselves on vegetables and then fall asleep in the greenhouse because they're so full. And then they've got imprints of their faces in the actual glass of the greenhouse where they were looking out to see if anybody was coming so they can make their escape. And it's got their face imprint and hand imprint in the glass where they were looking through it. But so I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight on the Feral People. Next week, SRS Paranormal will be on the show with us. They are native paranormal team from Tennessee. Um, I met them at the Warrens Paracon. They were supposed to be on tonight, but they had to reschedule due to a public event they're doing tonight. So I will have Matthew, the founder of SRS Paranormal, on the show. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But I thank everybody for hanging in there with me tonight, um, and coming on. Granger says, "Thanks, Russell. You know, surprised that there's no former slaves. Maybe we're feral people. Yeah, I mean, yeah. That, you too, Carol. Thanks for joining in. I mean, yeah, the slaves. I could see that. I mean, Missouri here's got its history of slaves. Yeah, we're feral people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were. And I mean, a lot of them did get free and escape. So I could see slaves being feral people as well. I mean, the abuse they went through, getting whipped and being chained to trees and chained in basements, that weighs on your mind and stuff like that too. So I mean, I could see that happening, slaves turning into feral people. Thanks, Kathy, for tuning in. Yeah, I figured I'd do a show on that since my guest had to reschedule. So now we got to learn a little bit of mystery stuff and history tonight. And my adventures will eventually take me to Tennessee to go out there and investigate those woods and check it out and see if I can capture one on camera and capture Bigfoot on camera or thermal or I mean it'd be definitely be interesting in checking all that out. We got about 5 minutes left, so feel free to post any more stuff up in the chat. If you guys want to follow me, you guys can follow me on Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri, Cold Spotters Missouri on Facebook. Um, BLPRMO on TikTok. I've got stuff on TikTok. You can follow me on Instagram. BLPRMO is my personal TikTok, personal Instagram. There's also a Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri page on Instagram. My personal page on Facebook, Russell Reynolds. Um, we're also on YouTube at Beyond Life Paranormal Research, the Missouri edition. And you can follow us on there. Follow us on Supernatural Link. My show's every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Check out all the podcasters on Supernatural Link. The Spiritual Speakeasy on Sundays. You got Greg Koss with When Spirits Connect on Wednesday night. Friday night, Greg Koss with Mariner Spirits. Thursday night, you got KD in Austin, the Generic Paranormal Podcast, where they talk about anything and everything, AI stuff, equipment, and a lot of conspiracy theories with the paranormal, and they talk about some cryptid stuff. So Granger said, plus I don't know if you ever been interviewed by Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal. He does solid work. No, I've heard of him, but I've never actually spoke to him. Oh, thanks, Greg. If you want to holler at me after the show, Greg, I'll send you a link. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I thank you all for tuning in tonight and learning about a little history that I found out, and about my neck of the woods where I come from. So I thank you all for tuning in tonight, and I will see you all next week. Same time, same channel. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe out there. Stay humble. God bless. And we will see you all next Saturday with Matthew from SRS Paranormal.